And I was blown away. Not only did I sleep, I was eating. I was like, the sleep was the most important part, because what happens is you get so sick that your body stops being in homeostasis. So it stops eating, it stops sleeping, it stops functioning. And that causes the brain not to like actually reset and start working on things. And so when you can't even get the basics of eating, sleeping, using the restroom, those kinds of things, those don't work, nothing else works. So cannabis works by getting that system back into homeostasis.
Hey, welcome to the Grow Podcast. I am Ashley, and this is my co-host, Wendy. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. And this episode, I interviewed Katie Zinno, and we're going to roll that interview in a little bit, but it was really inspiring chatting with Katie. And, you know, she's suffered with a lot of health issues, and one of the things we talked about was that cannabis really helped her quite a bit. And I know that's a subject that's important to both of us.
Yes, for sure. I'm really excited to hear more about how it helped her. I think she's an example of why it's necessary to have access to plant medicine that isn't considered very often, and especially because she has such a rare disease that often goes misdiagnosed. So, yeah, this is very, very interesting to hear.
Yeah, for sure. And, she also mentioned that spirituality really was key for her. And I think that oftentimes when we're suffering and things seem sort of impossible to move forward, it's really our connection to spirit that can really help us to cross the bridge and keep going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And especially with something like this, because, how can you know to move forward? How can you like convince yourself, with lack of a better word, if you don't have spirituality to support you and know that you are here for a bigger reason?
Love that. Well, here's my interview with Katie Zinno. Hey there, Wendy Jo from the Grow Podcast. I have a question for you. Do you think I'm disabled? I am disabled. I have also many skills and abilities that I can use to contribute to society and to my family and my world in a really meaningful way. I think it's a really ableist point of view to think that a disabled person wouldn't be able to do that. Sometimes people need different accommodations. Sometimes they need someone to really understand what they need help with and assistance with enhancing the abilities that they have. So let's all change our minds and look at each individual as someone who can contribute and someone who is valuable and important. Hey there, friends. Wendy Jo from the Grow Podcast. I am super excited today because I am introducing you to Synergy Skinworks, your trusted source for medicinal cannabis patches. That's right, a transdermal system for cannabis medicine. And it doesn't matter where you place it on your body because the medicine goes where the blood flows. It's 97% bioavailable in this form, and the patch won't move if you sweat or get it wet. They are available in all 38 dispensaries in Arkansas and also in Oregon and Montana, and I just know they're going to be available all across the country because it is brilliant. As a patient, I find them to be discreet, easy to use, and I can place it and forget about it for 24 hours. As a health professional, I love it that patients can give their lungs a break. If you'd like, you can learn more at synergyskinworks.com. And I've got my patch on. Peace out. Joining me now is Katie Zinno. Katie is a single mother who states that she is a medical anomaly. She found cannabis and alternative medicine after exhausting Western medicine and feeling defeated to the point of considering physician-assisted suicide. Welcome to the Grow Podcast.
Hi, thank you.
You have a really interesting story, I know. And when you say that you're a medical anomaly, let's kind of start there first so that for our listeners and viewers, they can get a sense of what you're talking about.
I was born with a genetic condition that I wasn't diagnosed with until I was 19 years old, that I produce faulty collagen, and it's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. A lot more people are getting diagnosed right now, and thanks to social media. But when I was going through my journey, there was hardly anything online. It was not something people knew anything about. The short version is I've had over 30 surgeries, including 7 brain surgeries. My body deteriorates at a much faster rate than most people. And that's not traditional for every type, but in my case, it has been. Um, I am IV fluid dependent. I have a port in my chest. I am averaging about 1 to 2 surgeries a year right now. I was wheelchair bound for several years. I was bed bound for several years where I was just very limited in what I could do. And now I work and I raise my 4-year-old autistic son. I'm a single parent. And none of those things, none of my doctors thought that was possible. Even my super holistic physician who is all about the power of the plant medicine and everything alternative, he never expected this. Nobody expected this much success.
You mentioned cannabis, and I think it's a very important point for people to understand what cannabis has done for you.
So my story is unusual, and it's not the typical story. I was out on the East Coast looking for better medical care, and I was being seen at John Hopkins, physicians at John Hopkins, and at that point I was so severe that they basically told me, "Hey, weed was just legalized in Washington. You should go back there, go get a medical card, and see what it does for you." And I laughed at them, and I was like, "I don't know what weed is supposed to do. I didn't grow up with it. It was never anything I experimented with, nothing." So I went back, I got a card, I tried to navigate, purchasing cannabis and things. I didn't really enjoy it. I don't like being high. I'm not a fan. I don't like the smell. I used to not like the smell. Now I like it, but, and I just couldn't find anything. Yeah, it grows on you. All of a sudden you're driving and you're like, okay, that smells good. And so I just didn't understand it, and I gave up. And I noticed it helped nausea. Like there are certain strains that help with my nausea, and that was a really big symptom at the time. But I didn't really understand it. And then I crossed paths with somebody who said they made oil, and I was like, cool story, bro. Like I don't know what that's supposed to mean either.
Uh-huh.
And he was persistent, and I finally was willing to try it, and I was blown away. Not only did I sleep, I was eating. I was like, the sleep was the most important part, because what happens is you get so sick that your body stops being in homeostasis. So it stops eating, it stops sleeping, it stops functioning, and that causes the brain not to like actually reset and start working on things. And so when you can't even get the basics of eating, sleeping, using the restroom, those kinds of things, those don't work, nothing else works. So cannabis works by getting that system back into homeostasis. Here's the issue. It is not a cure-all, and it is very challenging to find the very specific strain that works for your body. So that is probably the biggest struggle that patients find. And not all strains help every condition. So like there's different things. And so what I ended up finding was this group basically sponsored me and spent tens of thousands of dollars experimenting with cannabis oils and different strains and variations and such to find what worked for me. But when they found what worked for me, I only needed a very, very, very tiny amount. And it was like a key unlocking a door. And all of a sudden it was like, whoa, she's functional. Like this was never expected.
I love that story because it's true. I've been in the dispensary when people walk in and say, just give me your highest THC product, right? Which, okay. But, if you're a medical patient, particularly, it really does take some experimentation and journaling and trying to figure out what really works for your body and your conditions. And so I'm so glad that you found that group and they were willing to invest in you and really help you to find homeostasis, wellness, and improved health. Like you said, it's not for everybody, and it doesn't take away your conditions, but by just creating that balance, you can tend to your basic needs and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really does. It's amazing once you find what does work, but it's challenging. And I know that I got lucky in this sense, but um I'm hopeful that the research continues, that more conditions are figured out, and it gave me a voice. It let me kind of, they only asked that I share my story, and I advocate for the changes that happened, because I'm good at speaking, and I'm good at kind of, I'm not really afraid of authority. My cat is like going crazy right now.
I love your cat. What is your cat's name?
Sunday. My
Sunday?
friend Sunday, yeah, like the day, my friend needed to rehome her, and I didn't really want a pet. And I was like, but she's really cute, and she reminds me of my dog that passed a few years ago. And so she came, and she immediately was like, "You're my person." I was like, "Oh,
Aw.
okay, I guess I'm your person."
Well,
So
as you're telling your story, I feel like the universe like brings you what you need,
I needed her. So she's definitely helpful. I've been going through a lot of personal stuff lately that has been, this year past year has been very challenging, and to kind of shift back a little bit, like, so last year I'm going through a divorce, and that's been very challenging, and just a lot of changes in my life, and I decided that I was tired of this story repeating, and I was sick of the same patterns and such. And like, I'm in therapy, I'm doing the work, but like, why do these things keep happening? And many years ago, over 10 years ago, I met a Reiki practitioner who tried it on me, and I was very skeptical. I was like, this stuff is bullshit. Like, it doesn't matter. And I tried it anyways, because I was so sick and I was so much pain that like I was like, whatever, let's just try it. She's gonna do it for free. Like, who cares? And it helped. It helped a lot. And I was like blown away. And I never believed in any of that stuff. And she turned me, but she said the first path to starting this journey is that you have to heal yourself. And I was like, well, I'm always going to be sick, so that's never going to happen. But later I understood that's not what she meant. She meant was healing myself on the internal and the spiritual side. And so I crossed paths with one of a friend I went to high school with, and she became a Reiki practitioner many years ago, and attuned me, and I became a Reiki practitioner um, this past year. I haven't actually done it yet, but I feel it, and I it pushed me into a very rapid period of growth, because part of that attunement is that you're asking for more lessons in life. And I think that's the piece I didn't fully understand. And so last year was very intense for me, and I came out the other side, and I'm approaching life differently, and I see how it's helping me navigate a lot more of problems in different manners. It's been life-changing for sure.
It's wonderful. And do you perform self Reiki?
Yes, most days I try to. Sometimes I get very tired. I've been interested in the quantum healing as well, and sometimes my meditations are actually me performing Reiki on myself, like outside of myself,
Nice.
kind of when my arms hurt, my hands hurt, and like um just kind of picking up to on other people and learning to kind of discern energies and things. So
Yeah, I mean, you came to cannabis skeptical and you came to Reiki skeptical, and here you are on
right.
our podcast. You know?
Yeah, it's life went full circle. Stop. No. But
So,
and my son too was a miracle. Like he wasn't planned at all, and um he was born 11 weeks early on Christmas Day, and I had to consume cannabis during the pregnancy, which was monitored by my physicians, because I was really sick at that point. I was very sick, and he was bigger than every other kid in the NICU at his same age. He now at 4 is the size of a small 6-year-old. He's huge and he's strong and he's incredibly intelligent. And I really think it was having that in my body, so that he had an extra chance, really, like a better fighting chance. Cause I mean, he's amazing. It's a total miracle.
Yeah, it's a very controversial topic. My personal experience and understanding is that it actually improves their health and well-being and intelligence, for sure. There are some studies about that, but the rest remains to be seen, right? So many things have been kept from us and taken from us, including cannabis, and people want to demonize it. Even still, we're constantly working on destigmatizing it, breaking the stigma. So let's fast forward to the bakery business, because I saw that on your social media, and as you mentioned, you started working. So tell us a little bit about that.
I started the cookie company during the pandemic. I was home with my son a lot and I was very bored and had nowhere to go. And I've always loved baking, but it was never anything I tried to sell or like I didn't go anywhere with it. And I kept perfecting recipes because a lot of people with EDS have GI issues and allergies. And I wanted to create something for my friends that have allergies. The fast forward part is that I started selling them. It took off super fast. Within 2 months that I had to stop the brakes, find a grant, found a commercial kitchen down the road and started producing in a commercial kitchen, got licensed through the state. I started it in 2020. And I mostly focus on catering and wholesale right now, but I make gourmet cookies that I can make vegan, wheat-free, sugar-free, regular, and you don't miss the experience of not having one of those ingredients. Like people rarely can tell the difference in some of the cookies as well. So it's a lot of fun. I really, the journey to owning my own business has been a growth period for sure. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of cookie companies that came up in the last few years, and there was a lot of pressure to kind of keep up, I guess. But my recipes are solid, and so my focus is really primarily to get a coffee contract, and I'm looking to kind of just keep the same thing, same product, and just wholesale it out with the eventual goal of opening up a production kitchen to hire people with different abilities to come in and learn skills, as well as mentorship to open up their own production kitchen in different parts. So that's what I'm doing. And then I'm also working at another bakery with another disabled business owner who also does that right now, who hires disabled people. And we're working on changing the stigma of what it means to give accommodations in the workplace and kind of navigating that world. So it's been quite a journey.
I love that. And, as a disabled person myself who works, I think we really need to talk about this in our communities. And there's so many ableist views about disabled people. Those who are able-bodied, when you use the word disabled, they assume you're unable to work, and it's not true. And sometimes, it's a journey, and it's up and down, of course. We have chronic illnesses, so there's times where you're ill or need surgery, but it doesn't mean that you can't be a productive member of society and create something like you have, which is phenomenal. I can't wait to see where it goes.
Thank you. You are right. The disabled population makes up 80% are unemployed, and in the U.S. and with I think it's 1 in 5 people have some kind of chronic illness in the U.S., especially with long COVID now. Many of those people are getting diagnosed with EDS and POTS, which is the stuff that I've been dealing with, and it's just mind-boggling, and so many. it's like the piece you get better, like you find the healing, you find all the tools. Now you want to go back to work, but you can't use your tools to work. So how do you work? And that's kind of what I ran into was I'm not going to pass a drug test because of the cannabis. I need something accommodating for my son and childcare because COVID changed how childcare works. Like if your kid has the sniffles, they don't get to go to daycare. You're stuck. So all of a sudden you're down every time there's a cold. And it's like, how do you navigate that? I applied to over 50 jobs last year. I have a lot of experience in different things. I don't have a degree, but nobody would hire me because I couldn't commit to 40 hours. And I still can't commit to 40 hours. That's just not something I'm physically able to do. I need flexible hours in the morning. I need the ability to change what I'm doing during the day so that I'm not doing the same task. Work at home jobs are useless for me because sitting at the computer all day, I can't do it. I have to be up and moving. I need the ability to sit when I need to sit. And so it's like, what jobs fit in that? And there isn't any. I had to make my own.
Yes.
So that's really the one of the bigger pieces of it. It's so complex, but the first part is just talking about it. A lot of people don't even know. They assume, stop biting me.
The cat.
She wants me to play with her. She's like over here trying to what are you doing? It's just it's trying to navigate it. It's a complex issue, but we have to talk about it. And a lot of people are figuring things out and want to get back to work, but they don't know how. And they're scared to talk about it. They're scared to rock the boat because financially they're so dependent. And a lot of people want to get off social services. Like I am trying to get off social services, but there's a big gap between social services help and the step off that cliff. And I know there's things going down the pipeline legislatively as far as changes, but it's not happening fast enough. And I think that's really, it's such a multifaceted issue that's not discussed enough.
Right. It is. And we may have to talk about it again on another show and just focus on that. I guess my final question is, I opened the show at the end of your introduction talking about how you really thought your life needed to be over. And I wonder how you're feeling now.
That's a big question. I just had to fill out a power of attorney, and that was some of the questions that came up was like, what do you want? And like 10 years ago, I didn't want anything. I didn't want tubes. I didn't want extra support. And now I'm thinking about it and I'm like, I need to be able to take care of myself, but I don't want to die. I want to live, and I want to live as fully as possible. I think at that point my pain was so out of control that I couldn't do anything. I was totally dependent. I couldn't function. I just couldn't do anything. And that when you reach that level of hopelessness, it's hard to see the out.
Sure. Yes.
And I think getting sleep, getting out of pain, those are the first decisions or getting that help helps people move forward to the next decisions.
Right. I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm very sure that both spirituality and cannabis, and they are connected too, has brought you to this better place along with many other factors. But, those are kind of the basis of really finding meaning and purpose in your life. And once you find some meaning and purpose and you're not in pain all the time, you can start to realize that, life is right there for you. You can make new decisions. So I'm very glad that you've come to that place.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I haven't talked about it in a while, so it's kind of nice to talk about that part. So
how can people get in touch with you?
I have a social media. It's still pressing on. It's without the G, so it's STILLPRESSINON. And Katie Zinno, KatieZinno. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. And then I also have my cookie company, Dazzle Desserts, DAZZLE, and desserts with an S at the end because you always want one more serving.
It's not the truth.
Yes. So dazzledesserts.com. And then I'm on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram for those as well. So you can follow me on there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was great talking to you.
You know what's interesting? We don't really spend a lot of time talking about people who suffer with disabilities. And that's mostly because those of us who are able-bodied, we don't really spend a lot of time thinking about them. And that's because it's a privilege to have a physically working body. But did you know that people who suffer with disabilities are more likely to consume cannabis than those who are not? Since disabilities is so far-ranging, it's hard to say what the reasoning is for that. But I would like to assume that it has something to do with pain. I do know that the number one reason why people choose to consume cannabis is because of pain. And being as though this is a forgotten population of people, I can understand why they would want to choose more holistic methods, because our medical system wouldn't necessarily support their, whatever their issue is. I would love to know what your thoughts are on the topic.
Hey there, Wendy Jo, co-host of the Grow podcast. Also, Wendy Edge, occupational therapist. And I wanted to tell you about my new business where I'm combining the principles of occupational therapy, coaching, and spirituality, and wellness, of course. On the website, you'll see that I'm doing Osho Zen card readings, spiritual coaching, spirit paintings, and so much more. So if you want, check it out, edgecoachingandconsulting.com.
Have you heard of the Cannabis Nursing School? It's a place where cannabis nursing, entrepreneurship, and spirituality meet. The Highline Tribe is waiting for you, and it's so easy to find. CannabisNursingSchool.com.
And we're back. It was such a pleasure to chat with Katie and hear her story and how she transformed, using spirituality, cannabis, her own strength, really, and grit. And I think, it's important to just reiterate, just the idea that people who have disabilities are of value, of equal value to people who don't. And, it's really an ableist point of view to think that a person who's disabled can't be productive. Our society really kind of puts disabled people down on the pecking order. And I think that is really just for not thinking about it fully, not looking at the whole picture and realizing that, we all have value to add to society.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. Like, there is a lot of value. And I think that where we place value, I just think it's unfortunate that we are disregarding the mental capacity. Like, if you're physically disabled, where else can you bring value? Is it through your intellectual knowledge? Is it through, emotional support? Like, there are a lot of jobs that literally just require that. And so, to just disregard groups of people, and we see it all the time, and not even just in disabled people, but our older population, even in our younger population, we just want to throw them away as soon as they're not able to, bring that physical strength to the table. And so it's just a sad situation that is.
Yeah, and sometimes people have to approach a job in a different way, and then they're perfectly capable. There's so many factors are surrounding this, and you did bring up that point about ageism. That's a whole nother thing. Heaven forbid you're disabled and older.
Right.
I was recently speaking with an elder, and she was saying how, in healthcare, she feels that they disregard what she has to say because she's old, overweight, and gray-haired. And she really feels it, and she's such a strong person. So I think, I don't know what it's going to take to change society's point of view as a collective, but I think having these conversations is part of the way forward.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate you hosting that interview.
Well, have a great week, everyone. This has been the Grow Podcast. Bye.
Bye.